Hello and welcome to the In the Beginning Podcast, episode 24, the long and short of writing short-form fiction, a conversation with indie author Stella Coulson. It is our goal to bring indie authors and story lovers together through discussion, reviews, and unique topic segments. Twice a month we introduce readers to an independently published novel, and then the following week we discuss a unique topic ripped right from the story you heard, with the author and you, the listener. This week's discussion is brought to you by Shirts by Sarah. Stop by shirtsbysarah.com to purchase a cozy sweater, a shirt, or a hoodie to be your reading companion. Last week we introduced readers to Stella Coulson's short indie read, Whitby After Dark, ending just as she learned her new companions were vampires. What did readers think about this tale, Marie?
Carmela said there are some annoying errors, especially in the early chapters, but nothing a good edit wouldn't fix, and they're possible to ignore. What is delightful is the engaging use of slang that really brings the narrator to life, and the references to geek culture abound. All in all, it feels like a story written by a young author with promise. If you love simple supernatural stories, then it's worth checking out. It feels like an original story from Lenora, who might become a future Willow Rosenberg.
Yeah, most of the authors have mistakes in the beginning of their writing career. But you know what? Read, write, and accept the feedback for what it is. It's help. Don't be offended by a bad review or a negative comment by a friend or family member. It just makes you a better writer. How did you feel about the slang, having to say it?
It was really difficult to say for me because a lot of it is UK references that I don't quite understand.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was asking. Because when I was listening to you, I read it too, but when I was listening to you, I was like, wow, it sounds weird coming out of our American mouths. So yeah, Scott said the story is an interesting one, charming, positive, and not entirely unlike a fairy tale. The subject matter at its core is very serious. The presentation, though, is not. I felt that the brevity of the novel, 55 pages, swept everything through too quickly and neatly. Things felt to resolve so fast that I wondered that everyone hadn't actually gone through this before. Scott brings up 2 points. He brings up the subject matter and the length of the story. And as for the subject matter, I just wanted to say I was glad to read a story where they could bring up something so important as child abuse without being vulgar and too in your face about it. Where I feel some stories and movies, they just feel they have to go too far. And I thought Stella did a very good job of keeping it informative, but not in your face.
I agree.
And the other thing that he brought up, which is the topic of this conversation that we had with Stella today, is the shortness of the story. So what is short form fiction? Any piece of writing consisting of 50,000 words or less, according to a Writer's Digest article, is considered short form fiction. The link to that article will be in the show notes. I tend to think anything under 75,000 words is short form fiction, but that's just something I was told when I began writing. There are many different formats under the term short-form fiction.
For example, a novella is usually 20,000 to 50,000 words. A novelette is 7,000 to 20,000 words. A short story is 1,000 to 7,000 words, and a good way to get your name out there. Yeah. Flash fiction is anything less than 1,000 words and is a relatively uncharted sea here at Indie Beginning.
Yeah, I'm not really understanding flash fiction. To me, it just seems like, except for in poetry, obviously some poems are obviously less than 1,000 words, but anything less than 1,000 words just seems like a Facebook post to me. Mm-hmm. So what influenced Stella Coulson to write short form fiction?
In my childhood, my first influences were fairy tales and mythology. In my adolescent days, the imaginative works that inspired me the most was Angela Carter. My 2 novellas, Whitby After Dark and Otherworld, are at their core contemporary dark fairy tales. Fairy tales and myths are about the metaphors, the life lessons, and were written simple, no excessive details. Fairy tales are written in a style that's stark, no flowery descriptions in comparisons to other fiction, and yet it's what's between the lines that I always found the most striking.
I agree with Carmela that sometimes a description can take away from a story. they just become filler for pages. I like the fact that she doesn't have to get descriptive and you know exactly what she's talking about. I do the same thing in my writing because no matter what I say, what color the leaves are, what color the trees are, you're going to forever see them green because that's what you're used to. So she just bypasses that, and I think that that's wonderful. Some authors have turned to short fiction as a strategy to get their name out there. In days past, you would submit a piece to a magazine and hope for publication. Now it's all about Kindle and blogs and flash fiction. We asked Stella if she saw short fiction as a way of building a lasting readership.
In terms of strategy, yes, shorter fiction can be used as part of a writer's business model, but I believe each author has their own reasons for why they write short fiction. Some of it in order to engage new readers into their larger writing, others to exercise their writing muscles, and others, like myself, simply enjoy writing in that form. In terms of production, I've yet to get into that factory mindset of producing my work at a more rapid rate. I admire those that do. I myself write for the fun of it. I see no other way of writing. If I didn't enjoy it, I would venture into a different art form. The article was interesting, though. I agree with the cliffhanger remark. A storyline has to have a conclusion before we inflict a cliffhanger upon our readers. Only after completing a story arc can we tease the reader with a taste of the next installment.
The article Stella mentioned talks about Hugh Howey's short fiction story Wool, and how it outsold his longer format novels, to his own amazement. He had no idea what would happen when he added the story to Kindle. In researching this topic, I found many articles that implied that attention spans may also be getting shorter. We asked Stella if she thought that this added to the attractiveness of novellas and novelettes.
I don't think it's just the case that readers' attention span is becoming shorter. I think we are simply busier than we ever were before. Readers work, keep a home, a social life, raise children. A full, rich life does not leave many with the time to concentrate and savour larger works. It is why short stories and novellas can fill the short moments of spare time more efficiently. I don't think this is the case for all, though. Many busy people just take it a chapter at a time, reading on a train, in their lunch hour, or before they go to bed. Novellas are great holiday reads and bedtime reads. They are perfect for a busy lifestyle or for brand new readers too. I think novellas are for everything and everyone.
I am a little jealous that Stella can write shorter stories because I truly agree with her. Whitby, I was able to read it while you took the kids to see a movie, and I could fully comprehend and finish the entire story within that time period.
Yeah, I struggle with short fiction. They're just, you start, you have a plan, and then you just add and you add and you add, and then next thing you know, you got 50,000 words down. Mm-hmm. You know, and you're over that limit.
I can't write it to save my life. Even when I talk, I'm very long-winded.
Yeah, even when I specifically try to, I still end up going longer than I need to. And even editing, you're like, what to take out. Mm-hmm. And I guess that sounds like a downside, which segues right into our next question. We asked Stella if there was a downside to writing short fiction.
The downside of writing shorter stories is that it spends less time with the characters and places. But I feel its strengths are that we get less filler, and that the sparse detailing allows the reader to imprint their own interpretations of people and places. A short story's rapid pacing can hold a reader's attention, but because we spend less time with the characters, we perhaps don't know them as well as our bigger novel counterparts. The advantages are that a writer can concentrate on a smaller cast of characters or focus on the protagonist. Short-form fiction keeps a reader wanting more, and that's what I find charming about it.
And I can see where character development can get hindered. However, like Stella still gives us a relationship with Lenore, with her intimate situation of child abuse and sexual abuse. So you have the relationship there with Lenore. Not so much with the other characters. I think they're a little bit lacking, and maybe in the further books you do develop that relationship.
I think that's a key point too, is yes, this is a short form fiction story, but you're led to believe that there's going to be more stories afterwards. So I think that opens up to being able to describe things better later. But I do believe that character development is the main problem I was speaking about before, is where do you stop?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's always backstory. There's always feelings that need to be pointed out. And as always, we ask the author what they wish they could tell their early writer self. If you could go back and leave your early writing self a short note about the world of writing, what would it say?
What I would love to tell my younger writer self is, write what you yourself would love to read, even now or when you were younger. Take your real experiences and truth and hide them within the fantasy. Give it moments of stark realism amongst the fiction. Do not worry if people will hate a character. Give him her flaws. Have them make mistakes. It is the errors that make us human. Write about the pain you feel. Put it down as an aspect of one of your characters. Invent ways of solving parts of that pain. Writing is a cathartic experience. Remember, after all, you're writing not just for your reader, but for you too.
I love that Stella would tell herself to write for herself. Because once you start getting everybody's opinions in your mind, like in the back of your head, oh, they're not going to like this, nobody's going to like that, this isn't popular, that's not popular. Once you forget all that and write for yourself, it's the best thing ever.
And on top of that, when you're writing for somebody else, it's a job. It's not a hobby. It's not what you find fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you really learn from writing for somebody else either.
No, I agree.
And what are your thoughts? Leave a comment wherever you found this podcast. I'll find it. We would also be so grateful if you would rate and review this show while you are there. Your reviews are a wonderful way to support this show, and also a way for us to keep bringing you the content you want to listen to. Don't forget that each review makes you eligible to win some Indie Beginning merchandise every time we hit a 25 review milestone, up to the 500 milestone limit. Screenshot that baby and tag Indie Beginning in it. Or not, I'll find it somehow. I like a good treasure hunt. Whitby After Dark is available for purchase on Amazon. Music found in this episode was written and performed by Tinmouth and is titled Generation to Generation. I would like to thank Shirts by Sarah for supporting this show, and thank Stella Coulson for taking the time to be part of the Indie Beginning podcast. I am your host, Benjamin Frankie.
And I am your host, Marie Frankie, asking everyone to read more books,
Be the best possible you,
and to simply enjoy this wonderful life.
Thanks for listening.